I used to do that in real life too. I used to start it out. Whenever you ready, my G. Going down.
It's all good.
Comfortable?
It's all
Already.
good.
What's going down, everybody? You're checking in with your brother Southern Saint Lamore in the building. This is the Mouth of the South. I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Miss Amanda O.
Amanda
Go
O.
ahead and tell them about yourself. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Short for Okani. I am literally a nurse. I came out here from Arizona, originally born and raised in. I was actually born in Minnesota, but I was raised in Arizona. Moved out here to Virginia about 9 years ago. I've been living out here in Richmond for about 5 years, doing my thing. Those of you who know me, I'm pretty vocal on my social media about things that affect me and how I go about my everyday living, just being a black female, young, millennial.
Okay. Oh, and so I assume that's what may have led you to want to start doing a podcast. Am I correct?
Yeah, I honestly just wanted to be a voice for the unheard, silenced, shushed. Honestly, I felt like people who look at me and go around every day just being silent and not feeling that they can express their emotions on a platform where they can be heard. And I honestly want to take this opportunity and do that.
I got you. I respect that. And just a little bit more about myself. I mean, I am Saint Lamore, hip hop revolutionary and recording artist. But not only do I do that, I am also avid with my wanting to speak up for our people. Now, before I get into that, I am born and raised in Dallas, Texas. I am a native Texan, and so when I graduated college, I actually moved to Virginia here in 2017, and that's because that's where my tribe is originally from. So shout out to the native tribes of the Virginia lands, man. That's where
Shout out.
we showing love and respect, man, because there's a lot of newfound knowledge there. So I'm really digging deeper on that front. And why I wanted to really do this in the first place is because I felt like too many of our platforms have been marginalized. I mean, a lot of the news that we hear today is very watered down. It's very whitewashed, if you will. And I think that it's time, in order for us to start to be the change that we want to see, we have to start we have to start being the platform for
And
our own.
yeah, news that comes from us, right?
Exactly. I think it's important.
Real news.
It's important that we get that news and that perspective as well. I think that it often goes unsaid or unheard, as you said earlier, and we oftentimes feel that we are being spoken for. And so what we want to do here
And stop the confusion, honestly.
Or
And,
help.
There's too much confusion going on right now in news, and people are just seeing what's happening on social media and running with it. But we're honestly trying to make you guys think for your own selves, and that's why
That's
we're
really
here
what
on
we
Mouth
need
of
to
the
do.
South, giving that real, clear news for you guys. And you guys can take it how you want. I want everyone to have an opinion, and don't think that we're trying to sway our own opinions on anyone. We want you guys to
Definitely.
call in, and come and talk to us on 804-905-8333.
Straight up. And while we doing that, that is 804-905-8333. You can call in and join the conversation at any time. We are powered by the Factory Radio. Shout out to B on the boards holding it down for us. And we're going to kick it straight like that. This is the Mouth of the South. What we're going to do is we're going to take it into our first topic of the day. Well, we were actually about to get into Jacob Blake. We were going to get into that, but
Yeah, but I feel like we should discuss.
there is some breaking news that we need to discuss. And so I'm going to let Amanda open us up with that. Go ahead. What happened? It just happened.
What city was it out in?
This is in Clayton County, Georgia.
Yeah, it was a Lyft driver who was carrying 2 passengers, and apparently his tail light was out, and so the police officer came and pulled him over. Lyft driver didn't have his driver's license, so he was started getting into it with the passengers asking for their IDs, and apparently the back seat driver passenger got into it with the police officer, and led to him coming out on the ground, and they were in a scuffle, and you see another officer come in and try to help his fellow officer get handcuffs. But to me, it looked like they were just beating him up. All I saw was the second officer that came in just pounding and beating and punching his face, and I was just in outrage because I was just like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, how are you, as a law-abiding officer, coming to defuse a situation, or you're coming to? This thing started out with a tail light being out, and I don't understand how it even led to the man being on the ground with the officer, 2 officers on him, pounding his face into the ground, punching him. By the time they actually got off of him, he was lying there bleeding, and I was like in disgust.
Yeah, I mean, from what I saw, I didn't get to see a lot of the backstory. I did see what surfaced on social media, but it looks like there was a lady frantically screaming, "Get off of him!" and she was recording with her phone. I also saw another brother. There was a a few bystanders, and I hear you bystanders speaking to the cops and telling them that they need to stop and that they're terrible people. But this is my thing. I feel that if this continues to happen in America, we can't continue to just sit on the side and just speak. I understand we are all, thinking about ourselves, but this is the time to do the opposite. I mean, we're sitting here watching our brothers getting beaten and getting killed, ultimately. What's going to happen is one of us is going to step up and start to helping our brother. Instead of, I saw 2 officers, one on top, another one
on the side of him,
haymaker, and on the side, hitting his, I was like,
I thought he was already
I wanted to run out there and push an officer off of him, like, just by watching that.
But at the same time, don't you think that, like, if you were to step in as the bystander, that officer would feel threatened? Because that's what they say,
exactly.
When they're threatened, I would feel as a bystander if I went, and tried to defuse the situation myself, just to try to get the officer to stop beating him, I would be shot.
But that's what I'm saying. What do you leave us with? You're giving us no option but to face our own difficulty. As I say, we don't have anyone we can call on. You're putting us in a situation where it isn't us versus them. You try to put that on us and say we're separating ourselves, but what do you leave us with? What legal system do you give us to fix these types of problems? And that's the only thing I see with this continuance of this type of violence. I mean, I'm gonna look at even Jacob Blake with that recent incident.
That was very recent.
And him getting shot in the back 7 times for what looked like was non-compliance. I mean, we're gonna get into a little bit of the backstory of that and how that erupted. I mean, of course, we all know on August 23rd he was shot in the back 7 times by Officer Rustin Shesky, and this is in Kenosha, Washington. For those who are not already up to date on the Jacob Blake case, but he had already been tasered. And of course in a scuffle as well, like this young brother that we just spoke of.
Very similar.
Very similar situation. It didn't have to do with a tail light this particular time. It looks like there was a disagreement between him and his girlfriend that this originated from.
Well, honestly, it had to do with the same kind of thing. An officer showing up to the scene and it having nothing to do with the person who actually ends up getting the brunt of their violence. Officers pulled up to the scene of altercation between 7 women that Jacob Blake happened to be trying to stop an argument between two women, and when the officers pulled up, they had already had some information about Jacob Blake having a warrant for arrest on some allegations of domestic violence and sexual abuse. The person who actually called...
I'm sorry, I just want to note that. So he did have a warrant, it says, for 3rd-degree sexual assault, trespassing, and domestic violence. So it is clear that him and his girlfriend were in a toxic situation.
Yeah, but they're together though. So
right. And so from that, go ahead. We are with the how the officers fought with Blake and how it got physical with him from that argument. I mean, you see, first of all, you have cops pulling up, and you see women arguing with a man in the middle trying to, diffuse that situation. But what does that look like? What would you imagine that looks like to the police officer? What do you think?
Well,
A black man in the middle of a few women arguing.
honestly, what that looks like is the black man is the aggressor, and the women are trying to stop him from doing something violent.
And that's how they would
That's how
take it.
that's how they would take it. And I feel like that's what happened, you know. But at the same time, you are coming to a situation to diffuse it, not to create more violence. And that's exactly what happened, really quick. But when I saw the video, to be honest, I was actually numb. I was numb to my emotions when I saw the video initially, because I had just we all know about the George Floyd. You know, we watched that video, that 8 minutes and 24 seconds of the knee on the neck. So even just getting past that, I haven't even gotten past that. So I have just been numb to murder porn. That's what we see on social media nowadays. So when I watched the video of Jacob Blake being shot 7 times in his back, this dude was not even facing the officer, I was, like I keep saying, numb. Even talking about it, I'm getting emotional, because it's like it's almost like I'm peeling off the surface over and over to this raw emotion of like, why is this okay? How is this okay? Like, how is even non-compliance result in someone being shot 7 times in the back? And I understand Jacob Blake wants to come out, and he came out
Well, they did say
with another video.
And he did come out with a video, but they did try to pin on him after the fact, claiming that there was a knife. Now I'm still seeing that the
matter?
officers admitted that there didn't appear that he had a knife. So that's another situation.
More confusion.
You end up with a brother who, you know what I'm saying, ends up getting most of his colon and his intestines had to be removed. He's now paraplegic. And he was initially handcuffed to his bed, so he was still being treated like a criminal through all of that.
Until he posted bond, he was still handcuffed to his bed. That's the craziest thing.
And when that happened, I really did feel like it was gonna cause a shift, because Blake lives, and so my first thought was, well, he's gonna get the opportunity to really speak on being a victim of this, and another way for us to ultimately combat police violence. We are going to play a little bit of what he said, because he actually seemed to be more so trying to take accountability for his actions. So we're going to play a little bit of what he said.
On September 4th, he came out and,
Not
with the video via Zoom in his hospital bed with a little message for the people.
One time for your mind.
Not only just your life, your legs, something that you need to move around and move forward, and like can be taken from you like this, man. It hurts to breathe, it hurts to sleep, it hurts to move from side to side, it hurts to eat. Please, I'm telling you, change your lives out there.
And so I feel like with that testimony, he did want to take accountability for his actions. He felt like instead of blaming the police, felt like I put myself in the situation, and we all commend him for that. You know, we do have to take accountability for our actions, but we cannot allow this type of behavior. We cannot justify this type of behavior.
That type of behavior sets
at any cost
a dangerous precedent.
Even if he was already in a position for that to happen to him with, the previous Warren situation, or with the, situation with his girlfriend. That still doesn't justify you being able to shoot a man because of his non-willingness to listen to you.
I agree. That type of behavior honestly sets a very dangerous precedent. It says that non-compliance can result in being shot. Lethal force.
Whoa. That's
scary. Like, that's scary as just being a black or brown or minority person or poor person in America. Like, it says that honestly that they can use lethal force on us by non-compliance. So we just gotta, it goes back to the slavery days almost. I almost feel like a slave now. Like, if I don't listen and comply and shut up and follow orders, I'll be like, what? put
Well,
to that.
I mean, I want to talk a little bit about, because I mean, like you say, the behavior is incorrect. They're basing it off of what they are allowed to do. So I want to talk a little bit about what really legally the police's job is to do. I mean, it does say that the police's job is to enforce the law, ensure safety and health. I'm sorry. Police job is to enforce law, ensure safety, health, and possessions of citizens, and prevent crime and civil disorder. Note, possessions did used to be people 400 years ago. So we do see that these rules haven't much changed since then. They do have the legal right to arrest with use of force. Now, use of force is a vague concept. I mean, I think that's what leads to the type of behavior that Amanda O is talking about, because they have the legal right to use whatever they feel like the force is needed to, quote unquote, make an arrest or, ensure safety in the eyes of whom. So I think it's just really, this is why we have to dismantle the justice system structurally and rebuild it. I feel like a lot of people, we're talking about what's the slogan? Defund the police. We're talking
Defund
about
the
that,
police.
but we need to understand really what
We need
that
to uproot the
entails.
infrastructure of the system.
what
You
that
know,
entails.
Like literally completely. It's the system is what's corrupt. I feel personally to really bring about change, the system of policing needs to be completely dismantled. I honestly feel like we need to defund the police in terms of, we tell us, okay, they need more funding to give them more training.
Nah,
For what?
I don't buy that. I mean,
Because
training
we've
isn't
been
long
doing that.
enough
They've
for
been
it.
getting funding, and this funding has gone nowhere because they're still killing us at the same rate they've been killing us. But now it's on social media because everyone can see it. So now it's like, it's not like it's not been happening all along. It's been happening. But now it's so much more present and seen on everyone's platform. Whether you feel emotion to it or not, it's still there, and it's still murder porn.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is what's causing things like the Kenosha protests. I mean, you have a situation where these people are rioting, and everyone wants to talk down on rioting. But again, rioting is the voice of the unheard. Rioting is what you get when there is no legislation. Rioting is what you get when there is no effort. I mean, we clearly see that, people are willing to give you crumbs as long as you will act civil. And so I commended the protesters out in Kenosha who burned down the precinct. I mean, that was really just symbolic of how we need to break down this system and rebuild it from the ashes. And so, shout out to
I feel
Kenosha.
like so many people are just fed up at how their voices and their cries, and no one's just listening, and it's just the same thing over and over. And now in 2020 with these protests, it's like people are like finally coming together and saying it's enough. And I'm really happy. I am so happy to see everyone come together and just fight for social injustice.
Definitely.
Because
Definitely.
it's about time. It's literally about time.
And the Black Lives Matter movement is alive and well. I mean, George Floyd was definitely another catalyst to kind of reinvigorate us again. I mean, just like Jacob Blake and what happened to the brother in Clayton County. But Black Lives Matter has a very big role now. I mean, this is not the time for us to, sit back and just kind of wait on something to happen. Every city, I love what I'm seeing across the nation with different cities protesting and different cities getting in those streets and putting out that message that we need to understand something. And it's not about the corporation. I think a lot of times people want to throw dirt on the social movement of Black Lives Matter and people supporting that by trying to bring up all of these.
I honestly didn't even know
Things
Black Lives
in-
Matter was a
With the corporation,
organization.
that's what I'm
Corpora-
saying.
corporation.
And most people
And
don't.
yeah.
That's what and we don't even look at it like that.
And people started donating.
Let's not forget this started as a hashtag, Black Lives Matter, and there is a social movement, and there's people out here that are in support of that,
It's a movement.
and it can't stop. like my brother.
So don't donate to the corporation. It's a movement, okay? Join
What?
the movement.
Well, we want to support any way we can, but like my brother Al Sharpton said, how the system needs to get their foot off our necks. We need to keep our foot on the necks of the justice system until they make some kind of structural change here. We're not asking for a new. We're not just asking for a new presidential candidate. We are asking for structural change. Am I wrong or right? Am I wrong or right?
You're right. You're right.
And we want to stay. And why are we talking about, structural change? Because we have to understand we are responsible for a lot of that as well. Now, when we talk voting, a lot of people just think national. It's very, very important to vote locally. We don't get that enough. We don't understand that the real power lies in the local government, how your kids are being raised, what the things that you were able to do in your city and your state. We can have more control over that if we would just vote locally. Now, it's not always about the president. That's all. What do you think about how important, voting locally is? Would you say?
Voting is very important locally because that we vote for these sheriffs. We vote for these districts officers that control these police departments. We vote for the AG attorneys. Like the ones who we're trying to get to put charges against the officers that pretty much shot and killed Breonna Taylor. We're the ones who control that, but we don't vote. That's probably what they mean when we say we don't vote locally. It's because we don't vote locally. The general election is not the only election we need to vote in, okay? You guys, we can bring about more change if we start voting locally and within our cities and the school districts and pretty much getting change done on our own. Voting is important, so we do need to get out and vote. If you're not registered, go to your local offices and get registered.
Register to vote. This is a census year.
This is an important election. We need to get Trump out of
We
office.
want to make sure we want to make sure we filling out the census as well. For those that don't know, and y'all can holler at me in the comments if I'm wrong on this, but for each person in a household, I believe there's an extra $2,000 for that community. I believe, and don't quote me on that. Check me up on that in the comments, but that's how important it is for us to fill out our census, guys. I know
And
that.
it's really easy. It's
I
like
know
a little,
that they.
It's like a little survey they just send out. You
Right.
know, if you're doing your taxes, you're gonna get that survey. You just fill out your census, everyone.
And I know how we are.
It's how we're represented.
I know how we are. We, like Kendrick say, don't tell him he lived. Don't tell them he lived it. And we got that kind of mentality. We don't want, we try to keep our business to ourselves. We don't want nobody to know who in the crib. I understand that. I get that. But if we knew how much money we was missing, we might understand that. You know what? Especially now, I think they've even lightened up on that, where you can start to count people that don't necessarily, they might not have an address there, but they stay there. You can
Yes.
include those people now. So
Honestly, not filling out the census is what leads to situations like what's happening out in Atlanta. When there's like a city of Atlanta having only one voting center for that entire city. That's crazy to me because that just tells you people are not filling out their census because they're not being represented, so they don't know how many people live in that city, and so they don't have that many voting centers. We need to fill out our census. It's very important.
Most definitely. And with that, we definitely gonna get ready to get to our first break. I want to let y'all know that this is a radio show at the end of the day. However, we are gonna have musical segments where we play new music. We encourage artists to submit new music to us, and if you got a latest drop, I know people like to put music out on Friday, but we're gonna definitely consider that and try to get that premiered on our show. You know what I'm saying? If you wanna come through, sit down, chop it up with us about what's going down, we open to that as well.
We hear different perspectives and
Always.
opinions.
Always, but since this is the inaugural show, and I am your brother in Southern St. Lamore, I figure I'd do an exclusive listening party with my listeners today from some new music that I got coming out on Friday, entitled By Any Means.
Ooh.
And you'll be able to check that out on any social platform once that, hits the market. But since y'all kicking it with me today, we're going to share that with y'all on today while we
Okay,
take this quick
okay.
little break. So one time for your mind, it's your boy Saint Lamore,
And it's
this
your girl
is
Amanda O.
and this is By Any Means and the Mouth of the South. My bad, I'm
The
sorry.
Mouth of the South.
Yeah, Saint Lamore. Now we can't even stand to fight if we ain't gonna stand together. Women need protectors, children need a message. Living in a war zone, got us all separate. Dealing with oppression, do it for your section. We can't even stand to fight if we ain't gonna stand together. Women need protectors, children need a message. Living in a war zone, got us all separate. Dealing with oppression, gotta do it for your section. Listen, so clean, think I came from out the church high. Pops God in the sun, you might have heard about it. Wrote a scripture, now I'm giving you the word. It's up to you to understand, or are you Judas of the plan? Damn, sold his own man for a bill. How the hell you call that real? Talking about his for his kids. Lying if you're acting like you don't know what it is. We ain't got the time to turn on each other as it is. Now we can't even stand to fight if we ain't gonna stand together. Women need protectors, children need a man. Living in a war zone, got us all separate. Dealing with oppression, do it for your section. We can't even stand to fight if we ain't gonna stand together. Women need protectors, children need a message. Living in a war zone, got us all separate. Dealing with oppression, gotta do it for your section. Brothers lying every day, brothers lying by the way. Brothers really don't care, cause brothers dying every day. Every brother got a way and every brother wanna take, cause every brother wanna make every other brother's cake. Wanna hit his brother's date, he wanna eat his brother's plate. He wanna win that brother's race so he can take that brother's place. Wanna make a brother face all good in the eyes of another man who doesn't give up about his life. We can't even stand to fight if we ain't gonna stand together. Women need protectors, children need a message. Living in a war zone, got us all separate. Dealing with oppression, do it for your section. We ain't got us all separate. Dealing with oppression, gotta do it for your section.
I think you plugged it in there. You gotta. You got another song?
Yeah, it's playing.
Okay.